Welcome to Circle the Wagons. Circle the Wagons is a panel discussion of one political topic per episode. Our distinguished panel members will bring multiple perspectives to surround the issue and introduce viable solutions. Now it's time to buckle up and get ready to Circle the Wagons. Welcome back to Circle the Wagons podcast. It is our first podcast of the year. We took a couple weeks off. They were our bye weeks, as Charlie and I called them for Old Dog Young Bull. Going around the table to my left and right, and has nothing to do whatsoever with how you're seeing it. But to my left is the inimitable, effervescent
Charlie Forster. Nice to be here. The Mayhem of 2026 is upon us.
Hoorah. Joel.
Oh, how's it going? Joel Hunt. I am your resident service member with very little expertise in anything, but a lot of random bits of everything.
Fun fact.
Especially fun facts about Nazis.
There you go. Yeah, we've actually spread the fun facts about Nazis to other podcasts.
Oh, really?
We discussed it Monday night on Four Friends in a Book. So, yeah.
Nice.
And we're going to have to rename Four Friends in a Book, but that's a whole different subject for a whole different podcast.
Is it Five Friends now? Or?
No, there's another podcast called Four Friends in a Book, and it's a lovely podcast. And they were around before we were. So anyway, has nothing whatsoever to do with politics. And as Charlie said, we're living in the mayhem and we got a lot to dive into. We figured this is going to be about a 6-hour special podcast. That's not true. Josh, what's up? Welcome.
Thank you. I was actually shooting for 3, but if we go to 6, I know there's probably plenty for all of us to talk about that'll get us there.
One thing I've discovered as the producer of this podcast is if we say X amount of time, minimum double it, whatever the topic is, if the start time, whatever the wait time is for the start, double whatever that wait time is. So that way we're never disappointed. Life's always nice and smooth. And finally, rounding out the crowd, Mama D.
Yeah, hi, I'm Diane. I'm here to ask questions and gather information. I don't feel like I have a lot of information to give because I'm sitting here listening to y'all talk and in shock of, not that I don't keep up with world events, I just don't understand the implication of where we're at.
Well, here's the really important thing about you being here is we definitely and desperately need and desire the women's perspective on a lot of our things. Because again, most research back dating even 50 years ago was still male-centered. Yeah. So the idea is your perspective of just things that you see naturally. None of us are experts in anything, but we like a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, we all have ADHDs, so.
Well, there you go. I'm the resident woman.
But what I will not abide is you downplaying your importance here.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for the fact that above all, like you bring our median average looks up. like you balance out the uggos sitting around the table here.
Well, and we talked about this from the very beginning. One of the things that we wanted to do on this podcast is bring a variety of perspectives. So we've got a wide age range here, ranging from Charlie at 29 to me, who's more than 29. African-American perspective, Latino perspective, woman perspective, man perspectives. The more perspectives, the better. There's a whole lot of, we can all look at the same horse differently, or the same elephant differently. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I knew there was an allegory there. But yeah, we'd all look at the elephant. One sees a rope, one sees a hose, one sees paper, one sees a tree. So, but the reality is we're all looking at an elephant, and the more perspectives we have, the better chances we have of really understanding what's going on. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this podcast.
Yeah. And it is nice when we can find topics, because I feel like generally we agree about a lot of basic things, but it's difficult sometimes navigating and finding topics that we have disagreements about, because we need the perspective of actual debate and discourse, and not, everybody's agreeing all the time.
Can you slide your mic over just a little bit more in front of you?
Slide the mic over.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Hive Bakery in Flower Mound, Texas. Absolutely not true, but I am going to be in Louisville.
We love Hive.
I'm going to be in Louisville tomorrow, and that's in my mind, that's close enough to Flower Mound. I may have to swing over and see Haley and the crew at Hive Bakery.
Joe, just I'm like walking distance from my house to Hive Bakery.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to know this.
So I'm going to send you my address later. So whatever you do, we can meet up before or after.
Yeah. I don't want to know that you live close to Hive Bakery, because that would be, hey, Josh, would you mind going check and see if they have the brown sugar and cinnamon
I can-
Pop-Tarts?
I can
Ugh.
completely tell you right now that Marie will have no problem having an excuse to go to Hive Bakery,
See, that's my point.
It's-
I don't need excuses to go there.
especially for those fuck ice cookies, though.
I'm just glad. Yeah, we actually got Fuck the Patriarchy cookies for Haley's birthday last year. That was where we discovered the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart. That
Sounds
was
so good.
just magical. Sorry, I take it you're not a fan of that
So
particular flavor blend.
for all of my, we'll just say,
What are you,
not say
you're a
all,
s'mores
but
guy?
for a lot of service members, whenever there's parse snacks, the one that you might always be able to find is the brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts. So
Really?
Now, these are not the boxed cardboardy Pop-Tarts. These are made in Hive Bakery. They're massive. Are these homemade ones made on the ship?
no, these are the Kellogg's ones that we
Yeah,
all avoid.
No,
Also,
very different
They
thing.
have ruined you for any other.
they have ruined me for brown sugar cinnamon like homemade Pop-Tarts.
Makes
We
sense.
all have something like that, though, don't we?
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't drink anymore. I think going on 8 years sober. But
Nice.
back when I used to drink, I couldn't stand the smell of Southern Comfort because of one of those nights I had on too much Southern Comfort. So it was a popular shot down in Uptown Dallas that everybody wanted those SoCo limes. And I remember, I'd pour that SoCo, put a little bit of that Rose's lime juice in there and shake it. I would literally shake it away from me, just pour it like this because I couldn't even smell it.
Yeah.
I had that same experience with rum. I used to fancy myself a Scotch drinker, but the reality is I would drink whatever there was, even if that was Southern Comfort. So anyway,
Things that make you go boom.
so this is the crew. This is what we've got to discuss. We have obviously we are most recently looking at the shooting in Minneapolis. We
Buckeyes.
are looking at Renee Good's wife has come out and started to share some of her thoughts. There are impeachment charges being brought by one of the House members against Kristi Noem.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yep.
this was all this afternoon. Notwithstanding, we have not met since. We've talked a lot about Venezuela leading up to the holidays, but since the most recent kerfuffle, and by kerfuffle makes it sound so gentle and soft, the kidnapping of a head of state of another sovereign nation. We haven't talked since then.
So where to begin?
We've got so many things to talk about.
Oh,
I think y'all just have at it. There's the blood in the water.
I'm gonna let Charlie start this one off. Actually,
I was thinking the same thing.
Sure. Yeah, the big one, of course, for me before yesterday, of course, was Venezuela. And us essentially kind of bypassing international rules, and essentially going into another country and taking their leader, and essentially bringing them to a show trial in New York City, which I don't think I've ever seen a person have multiple fit changes as they are being brought from a country or their own country to another country for trial.
Did they let him pack a suitcase?
I mean,
he had to stay crispy, so they might have, because again, they went and got him and his wife only.
Yeah.
That sounds more like an evacuation to me, but
Oh,
Very,
interesting.
very Shah of Irani.
I mean, but that black eye she was sporting,
Yeah.
Hey, look, first of all, it's not Black Ice's fault that it was there, okay?
Is the
Sometimes-
black guy in the room with us?
I riffed and you didn't catch it.
Yeah, I was ready to go with a whole black ice peas, but
But
yeah,
it's a great Key and Peele skit, by the way. So anyway, moving
I
on.
need to
but
watch
yes.
some Key.
and like China was in Venezuela the day beforehand, also signing different agreements with Venezuela, which I found pretty interesting.
Like what kind of agreement?
Now that I don't fully know.
So the trade agreements that they have kind of going in, and there's percentages. So Charlie, if you can look those up in terms, because the big negotiations there were going to be the oil, because China is a big purchaser of Venezuelan oil.
The biggest, if I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they purchased 30% of Venezuelan oil, but I'm not exactly sure the specific percentages. So we have two people that have laptops. So again, always fact check. Never believe anything. You're not MAGA, so let's not just believe everything you hear. But anyway, so because the international trade and the open market and stuff gets super convoluted and really like boring, the idea was they're trying to secure oil reserves, because if they are going to, let's say, wage war against Taiwan, the biggest impediment for every country except the U.S. in terms of like naval superpower to be able to do this is oil, because our carriers are nuclear powered. Everyone else's, except for like two maybe now, I think, are all still powered by diesel. So, but also just with infrastructure and their growth in infrastructure, and they're trying to expand territories. So that's so much more complicated than what I just said, but just the general idea is like they were there for agreements, oil and stuff, and so was Russia. No, Russia was there a few weeks prior to that, I believe.
And then after it as well.
And looking at as for the China as an importer of Venezuelan oil, it looks like, and I'm still chasing numbers, but looking at the graph, it's fairly clear. It started last year about 400,000 barrels per day.
Sure.
And by the end of last year, by November of 2025, it was up around 750,000 barrels a day, almost doubled, going to China from Venezuela,
which would come out to be about 4 to 5 billion barrels of oil for the past year.
Yeah, so they are a huge importer of Venezuelan oil.
So does that mean now that Trump is taking over all of the monetary assets, and he said that he's going to be the only one receiving that money and distributing that money? Now, he had said to the American public and to the Venezuelans, we all know that's fucking bullshit. But does that mean Trump's going to be selling Venezuelan oil to China?
Well, the second largest importer of Venezuelan oil was the United States, and they said, what, $30 to $50 million of oil is what he expected to take ownership of.
I think so.
With that money going
35 to 40
into the presidential slush fund, not what he designated it, but all that money going directly into the control of the executive branch.
Yes,
which fundamentally erroneous with how we do business in the United States.
But we have to pretty much assume that all three of these major superpowers they're all saying one thing and doing another. So all of it's just to try and make it sound like it's above board, but really it's not.
Yep.
But because that money was going to be controlled by like an offshore account somewhere in like a non-extradition country,
like a Swiss bank account.
Basically the same thing. Yeah. But again, a lot of it is still only partially hearsay. The issue is we know what's going to happen. Like, we know that the American people are never going to see a dime of that money, if it even happens. I don't perceive it, because part of the reasons why they were only able to get that much, China specifically, were able to get all that oil despite increasing their purchasing of it on the open market, was that the oil infrastructure there is awful. The people that can explain that more in detail, but part of that was the reason that a lot of the oil companies that are U.S. oil companies that now operate out of Canada were like, it's cheaper and more profitable for us to do it here.
Sure.
Because I remember somebody saying that they had left Venezuela previously.
So, with the exception of Exxon, was that the only one that stayed behind?
Yes. Yeah. So, because the idea is like it's not. So for them to have to go back during a situation where they're now considered hostile entities, like absolutely not. I don't perceive that happening. But a lot of this is just smoke and mirrors to, I feel like, again, to appease Russia. So that they can finish taking over Ukraine, so that they can take over all that. It's a whole thing. It's more political than I even understand it. So it's like I try to not go too deep into topics that I only have basic information of. But yes,
we don't want to pull up the old like tinfoil hat right now.
It's important to know where your limitations are with what you understand.
Well, and I think that's another thing that we've tried to do on the podcast is when we're going to express a tinfoil hat opinion, we identify it as such. But we want to make sure that we're trying to be as accurate as possible and substantiate our claims. Just FYI, ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips, their assets were nationalized in Venezuela years ago. Chevron has maintained the presence, and they are the sole U.S. oil producer, oil company that's stayed behind and
aren't they the number one
structure. By the way, China is 68% of Venezuela's oil.
68%.
The United States is 23%. Everything else is scattered between Cuba, Spain, and other.
Oh, I know. I meant China's. How much of the Venezuelan import of China's importing of Venezuelan oil? How much of theirs is that? Not how much of Venezuela's is it? Because obviously we knew they were the primary.
It's actually
importer.
a relatively small percentage.
I think it was like
4 to 7%. In late 25, early 26. Yeah. And most of that is coming over to China to repay debts that Venezuela owes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Question, this is mainly kind of more to Charlie, because I know he's got his finger on the pulse on things, but the Russian oil tanker that was chased down by our Navy fleet for 2 weeks and then boarded, is there a correlation? No, they said
that was a Venezuelan oil tanker.
Was it a Venezuelan oil tanker in Russian water? So no, I know that happened, but there was a Russian oil tanker. I want to say it was 2 days ago after this.
Yes,
Russian flag. Yeah.
Yes, it had a Russian flag on it. Yeah, it had a Russian flag on it, but it was a Venezuelan tanker.
Gotcha. That's the clarity I'm looking for too.
Yeah, and it was a rogue oil tanker that essentially was not on the market, that we went and seized in international water. Russia was like accompanying it, and there was a flag
escorting.
Do we have any indication of where that tanker was headed? Because I know Cuba is in a little bit of a panic with Venezuelan oil falling under U.S. control. So I'm wondering if it was, since it was Russian flagged, if it was headed to Cuba. There's pure conjecture.
That's a pretty good guess, actually.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it because I've just been trying to not lose my absolute crap over the Nicole Good thing. We'll get to that later. So I've just been kind of focused on that and getting myself in the mindset to eventually to go and do what I did today, which is go buy a firearm, going back to Venezuelan oil. And you said Cuba, because because of the, again, embargo that we have around Cuba, preventing them from having anything, and yet somehow their medical and education are both better than ours. Crazy.
Like that.
Well, NPR states that it was bound for Venezuela. So it was,
because it was empty. Yes, because it was empty. Yes,
and it was heading to Venezuela. And so it looks like.
So what's the reason for us then chasing this ship down for 2 weeks to board and seize and
because I think they thought that there was oil on the tanker, and they knew that they was chasing them, so they just took them on a chase to waste money and time. That's what it sounds like.
That's what I was going to say. Because speaking of money and time, and I know I'm deflecting a little bit here, but 25 million, was that the bounty for Maduro?
Yes.
Okay, so
and that goes back to the previous administration.
To death. That was Biden had put that in place, right?
Yes.
They just during that presidency term, they didn't go over, like, enact or.
Now I say that I have not independently verified that, but I believe that to be the case. That
I think that's
correct. Biden administration was $25.
Well, because it was actually increased, I think, from another number. Yeah. I don't remember what it was prior.
I want to say Pam Bondi, didn't she put $50 million?
Oh, increased it from 20. I thought 25 was where it stayed. I thought it increased to 25.
I thought it was still 25.
But my biggest question is, especially for you military guys.
That's correct. It was increased to 50.
It was. Okay.
Yeah.
So how much did it cost for us for the personnel, the fuel, the planes, boots on the ground? What was our cost incursion for a mission like that compared to a bounty?
So the mobilization of an aircraft carrier for a single aircraft, it takes multiple $1 billion. And there were, I think, 3 or 4 in the Bay at the time of it.
That's American tax dollars.
Yes, that is.
Now these carriers were already in the Bay, correct?
So they all repositioned to be there.
Yeah.
But they were there.
Not from port. They were already at sea.
I don't know that specific.
Yeah.
Because that would have pulled because there were 4 there, and I'm pretty positive Packed Fleet's carrier was no Packed Fleet's carrier is probably out, so I don't know which carriers were there.
Yeah.
I don't know the names of which, because that would let us know which ones came from where.
It could be
And
Lant Fleet if it's on that side of the Panama Canal.
well, we also recognize that they're refocusing our priorities again, because they're reducing and combining some of the regions and stuff.
Yeah.
For
Additional consolidation purposes.
just
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah, because they're trying to focus on domestic issues. They're trying to get ready to try and take over the mainland, but because they believe that the U.S. military will, once turned back inside to the U.S. to the citizenry,
Not just the U.S. I think this is my opinion. This is tinfoil hat time. My opinion is that their intent is to take over the entire Western Hemisphere.
yes,
And if you'll notice, Greenland falls within that Western Hemisphere.
yes,
Sort of puts an entirely new spin on the renaming of the Gulf of America as well.
yes.
So these are
also outlined in Project 2025 as well. Everything that's happening has been outlined, but they're trying to speed rush the end game of it.
Yeah.
Which we can tell. But
Probably because of the Epstein list.
without a doubt.
But the next level of that, there's also already, I think, forward movement on the Project 2026 as well as Project Esther agendas. They're also part of the Heritage Foundation's secondary or second tier agendas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've already started that because, again, we have like the big tradwack movement now and everything, which, look, be who you want to be, find the person that meets your yuck to your yum, whatever else. But the idea of pushing that upon people to try and change the order, it's not going to work.
Can I just say that calling it the Dawn Row Doctrine
Oh
is
my
the
gosh.
most insane thing?
Is that the most seventh grade thing
yes.
you've heard of?
Oh my! Like when I tell you that these people are still 12 years old to their core,
Yeah.
they're absolutely 12.
Yeah.
I made a TikTok about this. Like, they have been arrested at 12 years old because they are not allowed to be better than their fathers, and going forth and forth and so forth. That's why they're aggressive, because they're not allowed to be better.
I think I've shared my developmental theory before, if not on this podcast, on another one. But the male of the human species only ever functions at one of 4 ages: 9 when farts are still funny, 12 when girls are stupid and it's all doing things with your boys, boobs, and 70. That's it. That's the only ages that the human male function at.
I'm
70 or 17?
70.
I want to say that
from 15 to 70.
I just turned 44 and farts are still hilarious.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's my point.
Okay.
That is my point. You are functioning at 9.
Hear that, guys?
You're 15. Right
Marie?
now, we're 12. When Mama D comes back, we will be better behaved 12. But just FYI on the Maduro capture during Trump's first administration, God, I can't believe I said that out loud. In 2020, the Justice Department set a $15 million bounty for information leading to Maduro's arrest. In Biden upped it to 25 in January 25, and then in August of last year, the Trump administration doubled it to 50.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was under the Trump administration, the first term, that Maduro was labeled a narco-terrorist.
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Because essentially he was, quote unquote, the head of some cartel, was claimed in the first Trump administration. And so this is kind of the accumulation of the attack against Nicolas Maduro.
God, this reminds me so much of Iran-Contra.
But what kind of, I don't know, came to my mind is this not just the entire erosion of essentially the world power balance from the leftover remnants of World War II? And if essentially the United States is trying to claim the entire Western Hemisphere, then that means everything that was set after World War II is now out the door.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we talked a little bit about that before we went on the podcast. I think extricating itself from NATO is really indicative of what you're talking about. And I saw a headline, I haven't followed up with it. There were 66 international organizations that this administration is withdrawing the United States from. I haven't gone and researched
Sure.
those, but that ties exactly with what you're saying, Charlie, is that um, the structure of the design, a huge piece of which was the United States being essentially the European annex, where we were, in partnership with them and economically and politically and militarily. And yeah, that's crumbling. The disregard for the US's involvement in NATO, thinks short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I get a little babbly.
But here's the next fallout about it. I didn't mean to cut you off. Because I have been trying to avoid talking about the eventualities of what the absolute dissolution of NATO would look like for basically each continent. But the problem here is everyone thinks, oh, the entire world's going to be against us. So once all the borders dissolve and then conflict starts, the actual eventuality is going to be Russia's going to be focused on doing what? Reunifying the USSR.
Yeah.
That's literally his dying wish.
Reunifying and expanding.
Yes, reunifying and expanding. So that's going to start.
And they're not hiding it anymore.
No, they never were, and they already have a couple of satellites that are allies with them again because of what's the guy's name from Serbia?
Well, again, Serbia, you've got Viktor Orban.
Orban, that's what it was. Yeah,
Right? From Hungary, you
Meesen.
have Erdogan from Turkey, and you have this concerted effort over there to basically conglomerate and take over Poland. I mean, like,
Yes.
they're basically not just reenacting, kind of starting off where they left off
Right.
in the end of World War II.
So when that happens, if it happens, I can't say anything's eventuality. Anything can happen between now and then, so I can't say when. But if it were to happen, guess who's not going to be focused on us because they've been trying to reunify the USSR? Russia's not going to be focused on us.
Yeah.
Right.
Because guess what? Now that Russia's focused on basically like eastern part of Europe, China doesn't have to worry about Russia. So what do they start doing? They start taking
Over Asia.
They start taking
all of
over all
Asia.
of Asia,
Which starts, of course, with Taiwan.
which starts with Taiwan. Then,
But you also wonder if eventually that those two become at odds with each other.
Eventually.
It's one of two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because I mean they're so close geographically.
no, yeah,
And if they both are trying to expand, those are two very strong power players and wanting to become the lead superpower
right.
in that area.
And it's going to come down to the same places it has historically come down to, and that's the stands. Uzbekistan, all those places.
Those mountainous regions over there. Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
Asia? Are they going to be part of the Soviet Union?
And this is
And
not to
that's-
mention India.
Yeah.
Because India and
yes.
Pakistan are still at odds with each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll never. I don't think that'll ever pollute
Right.
itself.
Yeah, but I think like India will be part of the Asian, the China, because to your point, going back, I believe what we're starting to see, and again, if you just look at a relief map or a map laid out where you could see what is Western Hemisphere, that includes the Gulf of Mexico, it includes Greenland, it includes Venezuela. Venezuela is a toehold into South America.
Yes.
It is that I don't believe that is the intended end state. I believe that was the first, to Charlie's point, World War III is upon us. That was the first domino for the Western Hemisphere in exchange for Ukraine, in exchange for Taiwan.
It's the precedent that is set now.
I think it was more intentional than that,
totally.
Josh.
Yeah.
Okay, I think for me, though, for anybody else that doesn't really understand this, it's really important to understand that when I say the precedent has been set, going in and doing that has now justified everybody else going in and doing their own as well.
Yeah, and I think that may very well have been the again,
Them telling them.
foil hat on.
Yeah.
China coming into Venezuela and saying, okay, here's what's happening. You belong to the United States now. We're dipping. We're taking over Taiwan so that we have control of that economic lever, and the expansion of China to usurp all of Asia, the expansion of Russia to reclaim what they believe is their right, their birthright, and having a POTUS that's just short-sighted enough to say, oh, cool, we get the whole Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus. But you're right. Either one of two things is going to happen. Either Soviet Union, the new Soviet Union, and the Asia are going to find those points of friction and be at odds with each other, or they're going to unify and say, why did we give somebody else the Western Hemisphere? Between us, we can take it.
Mm.
They're just playing a big game of Risk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they're just
And they're
divvying
not-
up the map.
Yeah.
And it's
because-
been at bay since World War II. And now essentially it's kind of at the point where what is to stop that?
Yeah.
the greatest strength of stopping that up to this point, quote unquote, was the U.S. hegemony around the world.
Yeah.
But that was also the biggest weakness.
Hmm.
Like once that was exposed, everything else could fall after that because none of the other countries maintained a robust military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have standing militaries? Sure. Yes. That's why we were trying so hard to get them to invest double, triple their investments into these things during the Obama administration, during which again spilled over into the first Trump term. And then even with Biden, they were like, that was such a big deal for us to convince South Korea's prime minister and
We got to hold the table.
Sorry.
When Joel gets going, we got to hold the table.
Sorry, I talk with my hands a lot, but when we got the South Korean leader and the Japanese leader to meet in the same room, that was a generational thing that people did not understand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was in a skit. We were set at, I think we were only set at secret at the time because it was getting ready to come out anyway. It was so close to the reveal happening that we were only set at secret because depending on also proximity to when something happens, it can get downgraded, blah, 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 doesn't matter. But when it happened, they said, we are at secret. Anything that is discussed now, anything that's written down right now cannot leave the room. We call that, it's a term for what we call when too many things that are unclassified become classified because they're combined. But anyway, so we were told we obviously couldn't talk about that stuff, right? So it's crazy stuff. For us to have gotten to that point with the Southeast Asian countries, for this to happen now, that was one of those things that we tried to do to prevent a full-on takeover like this.
Yeah.
Because again, not only will Russia try and take the rest of the satellites back, they're going to try and take that contested territory back from Japan. So once they already have a foothold on the top of the islands, cool. We'll just go ahead and take the rest of the island then. Why not?
And that may very well turn out to be the friction point between the new Asia and the new Russia.
Right.
That dominate that region. It may be simply taking over those protective, the barrier islands that are Japan.
What
about Australia and New Zealand?
That was like Britain.
And
They have
all-
such geographic advantages,
right?
from a defensive standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, I don't know who gets them in the game of
I
right.
don't know if anybody gets them.
the other problem too that is like there's a large piece of Australia that's just not really settled. Like it's just
Yeah.
like there. So it would be very hard for them to mount a non-coastal counter invasion, but as opposed to trying to like prevent one from the north. Granted, a lot of that stuff is like uninhabitable, they say.
But there are a lot of military operations that are rehearsed
out
in
there.
the interior.
Yes.
I've got a friend who was with the Australian Army, and we talked about some of the places where they tested. So falling back, part of the sort of fundamental defense is falling inward
Sure.
and regrouping and then
Yeah.
moving back out to reclaim the coastal region. But not that they would willingly surrender like Sydney and those kind of places.
Sure.
But yeah.
But yeah, but again, because it's so right now, like so geographically like inconvenient for anybody.
Yeah.
You get to do that thing in Risk where you just kind of like turtle for as
Yeah.
long as you can.
Yeah.
And then usually like if
Wait
you do
for
it,
everybody else to blow them.
yeah, then when after you do, you just take over the rest of the game.
I think that's what's going to happen. Then Australia is
we're-
going to be the one world order.
Oh, actually,
We're all going to be
holy
down on it.
crap. There's a video called End of the World that went viral when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
That is the
Is
most
that on
apt.
YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
Okay,
It's called End of the World. It came out whenever you hear people say, "Oh, I'm retired," then fire the missiles. That's from that. That's basically
What, say it
describing.
again?
Well, I'm retired, and well, then fire the missiles, and so like all the countries
Fire
are
the
firing
missiles.
missiles at everybody.
Yeah.
It's a super viral video. Like it's super millennial core, but it outlines exactly this without realizing that it's not being satire now. it just blew my mind that that's just such an accurate
Wild.
thing. Yeah. Because while everything else is going crazy, Australia's like, okay, cool. Yeah, we're just, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're just chilling.
Yeah.
So
this also kind of puts some things into perspective too, with the billionaire oligarch class and all of the moves that we see about underground bunkers being built, about them putting their money into trying to create habitable space stations.
it's almost like they knew.
Because they have this idea that there's going to be nuclear war, that there's going to be another major war, and they intend to wait it out to some degree.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. People can watch all you want now.
They tend to wait that out, and then you know, I don't know. I feel like our tinfoil hat is slowly becoming a tinfoil yarmulke at this point.
But before we get too down the rabbit hole of the inevitability or the potential inevitability of a new world order of superpowers, but they're all evil superpowers, right?
Yeah.
Because again, granted, when you look at the history of almost every country, none of them are blameless. They have expansion stained in blood.
Yep.
They've geographically changed the course of certain countries' histories and cultural prosperities. But the thing is, the most important aspect about all this is what the people will do when they're forced or when the governments try and force them to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only way for these potential takeovers to happen would be for the populace to just fall in line with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the authoritarian, tyrannical way.
Right. Now, we do have, like I said, we have a good swath of people in this country that would
look what happened in Minnesota.
Yeah, that would absolutely just fall in line with whatever the government says. We recognize
we do.
That. Yeah.
I have to fight with them on Facebook and social media daily.
But there's also, at least I would say, despite the ones that didn't vote, I would still say we have about 150 adult Americans in this country that absolutely do not want any of that to happen.
Yeah.
And one of the only other benefits of having one of the most per capita heavily armed countries in the world, granted, I think Canada has more. I think people in Sweden have way more because they're hunters and stuff, and so the moose up there are kind of, first of all, if you see a moose, either go the other way or get inside something, because that thing will just jack you up. But they can swim too.
Yeah,
they can dive 20 feet.
That's insane.
Or deeper. It's insane.
Fun facts about moose. Mooses. Meesen,
actually. So it's a flock of Meesen.
I learned something new today.
Yes. But
is that true?
Huh?
Are you just making that up?
Making what up?
A flock of
Meesen. Because meese.
So,
There's a moose for singular.
Google's free.
I can't. My phone's up there.
It's Meesen.
Plural of moose is moose. Just making shit up over there.
Well, that doesn't make anything.
And a flock. Flocks are birds usually.
Could it be a murder of Meesen moose?
Don't tell mooses what to do. Sorry, Meesen what to do.
It's literally Meesen.
Hey.
Oh my gosh! And also, murderous crows. Get it right.
Yeah,
learn your animals.
Yeah. Actually, we invented here
and manimals
at Patchouli Joe's. There was a group of poets that wanted to come together and form this poet group. And so I came up, I designated, it's official, I made it a thing, a rhythm of poets. I know, pretty brilliant.
Okay.
I like it.
I can do it.
It's catchy. And it's stuck.
It's a thing.
That is now the name of their group.
I'll use that from going forward.
It is nice having people that can be clever enough to coin things that just kind of last forever. I mean, I know I'm pretty great, right?
I think Meesen's got a chance.
A flock of Meesen.
That's
what I'm.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
If we put it on Wikipedia, it's forever, right?
But here's the thing: you put on Wikipedia, then people are going to actually go and vet it, because that's, despite it not being an actual resource that you can directly use. Also, if you ever cite things from Wikipedia, don't say that you got it from Wikipedia. Just follow the reference sources and only use those. Do not tell anybody that you started off on Wiki, because they're going to assume at that point that you just copy and pasted the Wikipedia article.
Isn't that what Wikipedia is for?
It's for referencing, so you can follow the references and then actually learn from peer-reviewed articles, studies, and researches.
A tip from Joel.
Pro tip.
I actually just came across a source of policy papers that are all cited and referenced and so on and so forth. So the papers have been assembled, filled down topics topics, housing.
It's a
whatever.
great resource.
It's a great
Yeah,
resource.
and it's
That's
very
why
similar
those
to-
that are like so anti Wikipedia, it's like you just need to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
It's the
Right.
it's
Yeah.
the end of the thread.
Because
to Joel's point,
Yeah.
it's where you pick up the thread and then you go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
but when you can't think 2 steps ahead, that being the second and third step, you just think, oh, Wikipedia, you can't use that.
that.
That's
Why do you got to call MAGA out like that, bro?
well,
Sure.
they're not going to Wiki because they
Yeah, I
can't
was going
read.
to say, come on.
Yeah,
they're
come on, they're not-
reading
they're not-
Wikipedia.
Because I don't argue with, I don't go back and forth with them anymore. And so now I'm just like, so before I engage in this conversation, tell me the last 2 books you read to completion that were longer than 120 pages. And he just kept responding. And then people, no, we want to know the books first.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to play your games. Well, why not? I just want to know 2 books. Why is
Yeah.
it so hard? You could have said 2 books and 2 comments, but
Yeah.
instead you just ranted. But, it's difficult thinking ahead when it comes to what could potentially happen with the different continents and stuff.
And so much of it largely is we're talking conjecture.
In
Charlie,
conjecture.
I love what calling out. This is sort of the disintegration of the world post World War II.
Yeah.
Well, and I just don't think in at least our lifetime we've seen a president act the way this president is. And really, an interview that he did with the New York Times today really hopped off the screen. And essentially, he claimed that he is only constrained by his own morality.
What morality?
And that I don't need international law, he said. I'm not looking to hurt anybody. But
Sorry.
essentially said he only abides by what his moral status is instead of what is quote unquote international law.
So in other words, that's the trust me defense. Trust me.
Just, it's
Fine.
okay. We'll be fine.
I don't think that we should trust anybody who has probably done inappropriate things with 13-year-olds on private islands.
And I think that there
We would have to see the proof first, and that is incredibly hidden at this point in time.
And don't you think that's a lot behind what's going on right now?
President redaction? Yes,
Well, because
To a
again,
certain
that's an international thing.
it is.
It's not just people from here.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, look at the ramifications that fell on no longer Prince Andrew.
Right.
Because again, a lot of those people a lot of high people in other countries would rather also see the world burn than go
Right.
suffer any consequences for what's
Correct.
in those files.
Notice that when the world goes through these patterns, you always see authoritarian movements, far right-wing conservative movements, fascist movements. The shift goes. We talk about the pendulum all the time.
Right.
But when we start seeing the shift go that way, and that's why it's so important for us to stay actively engaged in fighting for democracy. You know what I mean? Because the multitude and variation of voices is one of those things that prevents these types of nationalist takeovers.
Did democracy prevent that?
I think so.
Or did democracy enable that?
Oof, that is such a great philosophical way to frame that.
Because he was elected into to
well, and-
office,
and
he
true.
went by the democratic
just
way,
like Hitler.
to a certain degree. Now
Mhm.
Hitler lost his election and
Yeah,
was
And was
appointed.
appointed.
He
but it was
didn't-
still
he didn't-
through the
he
legal
did not.
channels. It was still through the legal channel.
But it wasn't democratic.
Yeah, it wasn't
Right.
democratic.
Right. So it's I mean
The
where
loyalty
we're
came
at.
after. Yeah.
Yeah, but the true lawlessness that is occurring within this administration, I don't think we've ever seen. At least in our lifetime.
Yeah.
There have been presidents, if you look back historically, Teddy Roosevelt, Tyler, but was
John Tyler.
John Tyler?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tyler. They wanted to do some things that were extra legal. They were outside the bounds of the protections, the bumpers that had been put in place by the Constitution. So they dialed it back. Even was it Truman that tried to buy Greenland?
Yeah.
For $100 million in gold back in the 40s.
The McCarthyism eras.
Yeah, but I mean, these are people who had extra legal aspirations, but they ultimately were pulled back
Reeled
from
in.
the edge. This cat ain't coming back from the edge.
Yeah.
He's like, I have no edges. I do what I want.
When you've never suffered
He's
consequences.
Cartman. Fucking Cartman is
Yeah.
our president.
He
Yes,
is.
he's 100% Cartman.
I'm about to pull a Joel and bang the table.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's literally
right there.
doing it for
I do what I want.
he's literally doing it for the plot because he's never been punished. Which is why it's like when we see Cartman get his just desserts, it's so cathartic.
It is.
Like when he bought the one of my favorite ones when he bought the
I totally derailed this conversation
Oh,
with South Park.
what was it when he bought the amusement park and then didn't let anybody in,
Oh yeah.
but in the same way he was only doing it because he was just being selfish, but because it was such a good business model of exclusivity, more and more people wanted to go. So they thought that he was like this business genius, but he was just like forced to do it because he couldn't run it because he didn't have enough money to pay for all the people to do all the things. But everybody was like, he's such a good businessman because they were raking in quote unquote all these profits, but he had to keep hiring more people. And he's like, this is stupid. And it's just like, this is like, he just failed forward on accident, which is what our president has done
Yeah.
repeatedly.
Yeah.
President Cartman.
But
Yeah.
because the thing is like Europe's going to be so focused on, again, trying to stop that expansion in Europe.
Well, yeah, protecting themselves.
And then also people in the unified countries that might want to retaliate against Europe for taking all our resources.
Let me ask that raises a question in my mind. Russia's attempt to annex Ukraine has been I think it's safe to say in large part deterred by the participation of other European nations and the United States.
Yes.
Sure. And the resilience of Ukrainians.
And
Yeah.
Very specifically, yeah.
notwithstanding the fact that the Ukrainians are a
Impressive.
bunch of badass.
They've been just kicking ass.
Yeah.
Like mad props.
But there's a
Ukraine,
whole lot of
mad
money, a whole
props.
lot of weapons that have been provided by these other places. If the United States is no longer a part of that, and again, some conjecture here, but there's indications we're moving that direction.
Yep.
The United States pulls out its support of Ukraine. And the and that void is left to be filled by the other European countries to again prevent Russia from moving
Yeah.
westward toward Poland, etc. I had a really good question I started off in my head with. I have no idea where it's going. Does Europe have what it's going to take, or is Russia too inept to execute this plan? They haven't been able to get through Ukraine, in part because of the support provided by the United States. But even if we pulled out completely, do they have what it takes? And we went through this with Soviet Union, that they were the boogeyman. Their military was the boogeyman. Do they have the military capacity and the logistics trail to get through Ukraine and move into Poland?
Here's where the silver linings start to come in terms of like everything's not doom and gloom, right? They were exposed having a terrible logistics program
Exceptionally.
in the very beginning of the war.
It's what killed Hitler, what killed
Right.
Napoleon, what killed Rome.
Overextended.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
overextending yourself, right? Because too much expansion, whether you like it, whether you have the power or not, eventually you're going to. It happened to Alexander as well. Like he was trying to conquer the world, but
Yeah.
then people had been gone for what 4 or 5 years at a time, never seeing their family. Just got demoralized and just stopped caring.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
just moved into the new town.
Right.
I live here now.
I just live here. Yeah.
Exactly.
So the thing is,
Resettled.
do we believe that they have the capacity to wage that type of like large scale war? Only in the sense of if they just go ahead and create a unified social structure with the other countries that are willing to join them. So I would
Call
be
it capitulation.
not capitulation specifically, but the ones that are already like falling under the heel of
Yeah.
Putin per se.
Yeah.
But this doesn't mean that they have like adept militaries either. The
Yeah.
idea is can they sustain a war with these fractured economies, social structures, and people in those countries that don't like the fact that they're being led by a dictator, right?
Turn this into a fun facts about Nazis. I feel like we can.
We can get there.
we can get there.
I feel like
We can get there. We can get there. We can get there. Because the other thing too is like the most unifying thing for a country again is an invasion, right?
Yes.
So if other countries in Africa are now focused on trying to like unify African continent, right? They're not going to be as focused on trying to go through an invasion because they're going to have to go through the Middle East and like UAE and all the other stuff, which is already going to be embroiled in turmoil because of the Gaza Palestine thing. Then Iran's going to do this, and people are going to do that. So there's still a power vacuum that exists in that space too. So
And I will say the
Or is
Israel conflict that's inevitable as well.
Yes.
Israel,
Israel and Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and we can put a pin in this, but you said this power vacuum in Africa. Is it a power vacuum or is it an opportunity for Africa to unify and
So both can be
And
true
we
at the
can
same
put a pin
time.
in
Yeah,
that.
we can put a pin in that.
That's-
But both those things can be true at the
Thank
same
you for
time.
saying that. That's a big key caveat.
Yes. But then it's like, cool. So Europe is at least stopping that advance, wasting their time, wasting their resources. In which case they may have to give up. Do they take some of Ukraine? Maybe. Do they not? Who knows? Right. But ultimately there's a pushback because again, one of the other most efficient militaries in the world is going to be the United Kingdom's military, right?
Mhm.
One of the other more powerful navies in the world is going to be the one in Australia, right?
Yeah.
They can lend aid as well. Obviously, Switzerland just recently made it so they're no longer a neutral
and
country,
you
right?
know who's hella
Well, they
in-
did.
That happened 2 years ago.
Are they NATO or what are?
Yeah, I think they got approved in
Yeah,
NATO.
they got approved in
Wow.
NATO,
them,
yeah.
them and Finland.
And you know who's really entrenched in that geographic scenario, who's just dug in and they're sort of geographically in a perfect position? Germany.
Uh-oh.
Weird.
Fun fact about Germany.
Yeah. And who is back manufacturing military grade equipment.
They all started
Germany.
doing that about 18 months ago, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like France started making their own. There are 3 countries that I talked about because I was talking about
France.
drones. I actually had a conversation. No, I had a presentation about ethics, digital ethics, and we were talking about drones. And I outlined the other arms producers in the other countries that have been ramping up
Mhm.
for the past about 18 months, 2 years. They've already been doing that because again, we've been pushing them to invest more. They've doubled and tripled their investments. So that's why I say the potentiality for all of this to fail on every front, except maybe China's, is because eventually Europe will mobilize their forces, right? If they can't stop the expansion, they can at least stop it at a certain point. They're going to run out of resources. We may still be able to maintain allyship with Southeast Asian countries. So that's going to be Korea and South Korea and
Somebody's ringing.
I think that's me, sorry.
Yeah.
South Korea and Japan, right? But also, if those bases get cut off, they could easily just kind of like softly defect and be those people that just kind of like fight in those countries as well. You never know.
No.
Because if they get cut off, they can't get back here because they can't fly all those airspaces
No.
without retaliation. So then it's like they have 2 choices. They can either try and fight the people that they've been living amongst for the past 4, 10, 15 years, or they can stand with them, use their military power to protect the base and protect the locals in that area. What's more likely to happen?
Yeah.
Right?
And looking at possible sort of those protections on our end, the Senate voting to move forward a war powers bill. Now, this administration is very much anti. They said, yeah, it's a BS law because it was only established in 1973 under Nixon. But given that there were 5 Republicans who voted with the Democrats they're moving forward. They didn't like invoke the War Powers Act against this administration.
It's got out of committee, I believe.
What is
Yeah.
it? Can you explain?
Yeah, it requires the president to forbids the president from engaging in war without Congress's
This is
approval.
to stop the.
I thought that was a thing.
It is. 1973
yeah.
was established under Nixon.
They're trying to do that to prevent any more things happening in Venezuela
Right.
because they know like if that fully happens, everything else tumbles after that.
Yeah.
Is it Venezuela though? Is my question. I know that's what's being reported, but more I'm like, is this them trying to prevent an attack on a NATO country? Because if we move on a NATO country, which they're not being quiet about, then essentially all of our allies get stripped from us.
Yeah.
So Venezuela is still quote unquote a rogue player in the world sphere, but if we move on,
Do you think it's Greenland?
Yeah. If we move
an
to
ally,
that's-
Yeah.
then all of a sudden all of our essentially business dealings with the entire Western hemisphere, or no hemisphere, the Western world is gone.
Well,
we're
because
trying to make Canada our 51st state.
because again, that
They're in the Western Hemisphere.
so the idea would be to because he's already been like joking about taking over Canada and Mexico for the past year and a half. So like
Yeah.
that's not like something that's out of the realm of them trying to do.
Yeah.
Because so here's the two things about that, right? Is because Greenland is the dissolution of NATO.
Yep.
Venezuela is the first domino of an actual basically world war. Because they could stop doing the Venezuela thing fully, but then, well, actually, because they kind of both work the same way. Because if they stop attacking Venezuela, but then they still go attack Greenland, NATO dissolves, and then other countries aren't required to help protect Europe during a Western expansion by Russia.
Right.
So that could trigger that, but we're not at war with them.
Right.
We just dissolve NATO. We're not at war with them because
And it could create chaos over in Europe.
Then that creates chaos too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So the
It's
idea,
the
point.
it's the green
that's kind of the point. Topple them, then dissolve NATO. So then that way, no one can invoke it on that side, which only benefits Putin. The dissolution of NATO only benefits Putin. It doesn't benefit us. It only benefits Putin.
Maybe it does benefit us, because maybe the alliance that we're reshifting is moving from allies with the Western world to moving to allies within Russia.
Correct. I
Yes.
think you're correct, and I think this is part of the alliance. Not necessarily an alliance, but it's the divvying up of the map.
Yeah.
Keep going back to that, belaboring that point.
Either way, yeah, it always ends up with that.
But I
Yeah.
think that's really what this is about, and it's, yeah, I think that's what I believe.
Yeah.
Pinful hat kind.
I had a question, and I had to get up and walk away when it was the time to ask the question.
Let's come back.
So do you think Russia, China, United States are all aware, are playing this game together?
Collusion
yeah.
between the big three there.
Maybe.
I wouldn't say 3.
I wouldn't necessarily say all 3. You can definitely say maybe for sure, because there's always back channel diplomacy and stuff happening in all these countries with different diplomats from each country.
Like, I'll get this one, you get this one, you get this one, but we'll make it look like it's chaos, but really
Like an
we're
MLB
going to
three-way
end
trade.
up with the countries that we want.
Yeah.
It's an MLB 3-way trade.
Yeah.
Hell.
Because
Yeah. I mean, with no concern for the people that live in those countries.
Of
See,
course.
But my pushback is just the U.S. implications that what
I'm
China
I'm
would
kidding.
want would be in complete in complete devastation of American interests. And that
Like
comes
Taiwan?
from Taiwan.
Yeah.
And the tech industry that we rely on Taiwan for.
Gotcha.
Which was why we'd have to go and take over South American countries to be able to get those
Same thing.
those minerals back.
Exactly. I've got a buddy of mine from high school that graduated with me, and we used to play music together. He, out of high school, moved to Taiwan to be an educator and teacher there.
Mhm.
And I, haven't really been able to I have not been in touch with him for a number of years now. I hope he's doing all right. Even I'd say
Probably
about
there's a great community over there.
I would
my
say-
nephew was in that in Taiwan.
12 to 15 years ago, the last time I saw him, he was here visiting stateside. And one of the things he was discussing then is that he was involved in concentrated efforts to have pushback and trying to, or in China's attempt to take over Taiwan.
Sure.
They were trying to be recognized. He was helping with legislation writing to
Oh,
get
wow.
recognized
Wow.
as Taiwan, because apparently I guess Taiwan is not a recognized nation.
Not who you talk to, but yeah.
Exactly. But that was the way he was framing to me. And this is years before I paid any attention to any of the stuff or really even knew
Right.
about any of this.
Right.
So, and I hadn't even thought about that until we just brought this up. So it's got me kind of like, I need to see if I can get a hold of this guy and
Yeah.
see
reach
what they're
out and
doing in
see
Taiwan,
what's
yeah.
happening. Yeah.
See what the inside
Mhm.
looks like. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there's at least from the news, there has been mobilization in Taiwan to where they kind of are bracing for an eventual attack
Right.
against them.
Because with Southeast Asian countries like South Korea and Japan, it would benefit them to protect or help protect Taiwan. Another reason why we've been trying to get Japan to change its constitution so it's no longer the Japanese self-defense force, because they can't wage war, they can't go places, they can only defend and then wait for them to stop. Hey, please stop. We'll just keep breaking yourself, but please stop. But they can't do anything. So,
Yeah.
Which causes another cluster of things, right? Because what do we do? You know,
Mhm.
as citizens right now, what do we do?
I'm glad you asked that, because I was just kind of hoping we can steer this conversation a little bit out of the macro global world speculations
Sure.
and consider this, and especially because I feel like this can also tie into the conversation about what we just witnessed in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. We haven't
When
touched that yet.
we haven't, and here's the thing. So, but I think this can help us here, because when it comes down to it, yeah, there's only so much we can say.
Right.
But when our citizenry decides that we are not going to comply, we whatever alliances, whatever strength we have to push back against our own government and say, we're not okay with this, I'm not going to do this. That's when you have internal conflict and ICE then going after dissenters of our government that aren't the non-compliers, right? So let's think about as our own personal stances. If you were approached by our government to say you're conscripted, you're drafted, you have to go fight this, and you say no, what are they going to potentially do to us? What can they do to us?
Right.
Arrest you?
Yeah, I should be not to minimize that, but going clearly, I said but, so I'm clearly going. I really don't. I don't mean to minimize this. I don't think there's anything off the table.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
look
agree.
at what's happening with citizens.
I'm not minimizing it, by the way.
Now,
I think that's painting the picture that I'm going for here.
yeah, I mean, if someone refuses conscription, conscription, I mean, we had the draft in the 70s, but actual conscription,
Yeah.
and which is, well, anyway, someone refusing that, I think we're going to be saying, I don't think our imaginations can take us.
The owners of private prisons are going to get rich.
Yeah.
Well, also, they've already
richer.
Well, because they've
private
been
execution companies.
who've also been suing states because they've had low occupancy rates recently.
Mhm.
A lot of the private prisons have been suing the states because they're contracted to have so many beds filled, and those beds haven't been getting filled, so that they're now suing them.
So we don't really have
my
DEI
God.
quotas, but we do have private prison quotas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
One thing I want to point out before we got maybe a few minutes to talk Renee Good, but the one organization or international alliance we did not discuss was the Organization of American States. We talked about the U.S.
Like the Confederacy?
No, the Organization of American States. No, not the Confederacy. It's different one. The noping out on NATO, we're going after a NATO alliance country with Norway and Greenland, I think is one thing. Venezuela is a disputed member of the Organization of American States, one of the few. There's not many disputed. If you look at the map, I don't know who all is disputed. No, actually, it's just Venezuela. Sorry.
Right.
All the rest of the South America, Central America, the United States are all members of the Organization of American States. Canada,
Meaning North America.
yeah,
North America, South America.
the Western
States.
Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Recognized countries
Right.
is what that. Okay.
Yeah, and Venezuela is a
Interesting.
disputed country in that group. So we have not yet sort of taken on, we collectively as a nation have not taken on the Organization of American States like we're sort of hinting that we're going to do with Greenland / Norway and NATO. But we would be doing that if we started making those same overtures toward Canada, because Canada is a member of the Organization of American States. We've already noped out, I think it's probably on the agenda to declare Venezuela a territory of the United States. Again,
Yeah. No. I've not.
tinfoil hat.
No, I do agree.
Tinfoil yarmulke.
Yeah. Sorry.
Greenland, is it a recognized?
Greenland, I don't believe.
Not according to Stephen Miller or J.D. Vance.
Jesus.
Who also said today.
Yeah, they're part of Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Stephen Miller, right, was like, well, why do they get to claim it? What right do they have?
I thought Denmark had
They did.
No, they did.
Is it Norway?
It's Denmark. It's Denmark.
Denmark.
I said
Yeah,
Norway.
Denmark.
Yeah, Denmark.
Correct.
Yeah, you're right.
I
But
knew they
yes.
were connected to Denmark. I just didn't know if they were recognized
They
as
are
their own.
Danish.
Yeah,
But they're not. They're a
They're
territory
a
of
territory
Denmark.
of Denmark.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
correct.
And they have
And by
universal
extension,
health
they're part of
care
NATO.
and they
But-
seem to have a much better quality of life and education
Right.
and healthcare than what we have in
Well,
the
then
United States.
let's put that in the
So-
toilet.
So yeah,
Let's
why
take them.
would they want us to take over and take it?
Yeah, but
Like-
by extension, because they're part of Denmark, they're part of NATO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Yeah.
Huh.
But if we also want to put on a tinfoil hat, it's like, where are these people that are being deported being sent to?
Yeah.
And predominantly they're being sent within the Latin American countries, and a good amount of them are coming from Venezuela. So like, you start to wonder what the goal for American influence within the country is for.
Yeah, can I point out to me what I could consider the irreality factor of that? And that is that, I look at MAGA in particular, the base and seeing the conversations that are going on online, seeing the posts that they make and the comment threads within those posts.
Sure.
One of those things to me, and it's like I always seem to hit a wall with them to where we can have a little bit of back and forth, but as soon as I bring this up, it's, I don't know, whataboutism comes around. But
Right.
right now they are so up in arms, or they're not really up in arms, but they're conflating this whole, well, but Maduro was such a bad guy, and this is a great thing for Venezuelan people. And sure, I'm going to agree with you on that wholeheartedly, but where was that when Venezuelans were being targeted in the United States by ICE and sent to CCOT? Like, where was your empathy? Where was your care for Venezuelans there then?
Because so many moved over here.
Right.
Were you not asking yourselves
And-
why?
And
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, like, but I think that's one of those things that I just I have to point out so often, and it's like they can't. There's no rebuttal for that. There's no rebuttal because you point out that simple point of your reality to them, and they're backs against the wall.
Well, and,
Hypocrisy.
yeah, and fundamentally, that we're talking about, what is included within sovereignty, and is not the right of self-determination
Mhm.
one of the characteristics of a sovereign nation, notwithstanding, whether Maduro is a turd or Venezuela needs help or whatever else. But isn't that up to the Venezuelans to determine that?
Yeah, to a certain degree, because
Well,
it's
and-
like,
yeah. Where's that
they
line?
they didn't elect him to be a president,
Yeah.
and he still maintained power. And the one that won the election was basically thrusted out of the country and had to flee the country. Like, the Venezuelan people tried to speak it, but it's like meddling within a country's desires is very, very risky, and that essentially is what America is like to do. But what I think is different from this is that the justification for it is for oil companies to go in and essentially kind of dropping the curtain that the reason behind going into Venezuela was not for that
Fentanyl.
reason,
Yeah.
or fentanyl, or one of the normal guises. He kind of went out and directly said what the main intention for him at least was,
Yeah.
which is not normal.
Didn't
No.
didn't George Carlin once say the United States is just an oil company with an army?
Probably.
I don't
Yeah.
know. That
Someone
sounds
check that quote out.
Sounds like something he would say.
But I mean, that's what I think of every time I think about what's going on here.
But then,
But you normally don't have a world leader basically saying it's for us to control the resources.
Yeah.
Even though that might be the intention behind it.
no one ever just said it that plainly before.
Right.
Yeah.
The quiet part out loud. Yeah,
Which
that's
was
their MO.
which was so dystopian for him. Like, to him, just say it.
Orwellian to the umpth degree.
Yeah, because like when Lindsey Graham was literally saying, "Oh no, we're doing this to take him out," and Trump's like, "No, it's for the oil."
Yep.
And Lindsay like did
Who-
it twice,
wait.
and he's like,
Who's
I-
Lindsey Graham? I don't know her.
"Oh, sorry, Lady G, Lady G. Sorry, my bad."
There you go.
But then we have to like all those things think about in terms of like what's going to happen to our country from the outside in, but then domestically going to the Renee Good thing that happened yesterday. We are now also fighting from the inside because today our vice president said to the country that ICE has immunity and they can do whatever they want.
He said actually absolute
Absolute
immunity.
immunity.
Really?
Yes, he said that today.
The vice president.
What
of the
what was the
United
term that Stephen Miller had used on air and he froze?
Plenary authority.
Plenary authority.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Stephen Miller had said plenary authority, I realize that's the kind of verbiage that they're already using behind closed doors anyway. And how comfortable are they now where they're just saying that?
That was such a because he speaks so fast. It was definitely a Freudian slip that he said it.
Yeah.
With the whole like post saying glitch and everything else, but
Yeah.
they say these things absolutely behind closed doors.
And the thing that
Right.
frightens me about that, because this is the level of casualness with which they use these terms and think in these terms, that there seems to be no expectation of consequences, of accountability for these things that are being said and being done. And recently the POTUS has made the comments about, yeah, apparently there's something about that keeps me from running for president. We'll see. We'll see.
He's been doing that though.
But
Bannon is all.
my point being, he's continuing to do that.
Yeah.
His favorite thing to do, my observation, is to tell people what he's going to do that's so horrific, and then do it. Said, I told you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I believe
He's a
that
gloater.
includes a 2028 presidential election that's going to look very different than any presidential election in our country's history. I'm not convinced there will be midterm elections at the federal level in November.
I'm also very much not convinced of that.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm going to say this also separately, because I today also, when purchased a firearm, as much as I've been not wanting to because of my personal mental health, and I just recognized that wasn't the smartest decision for me to have one. Could I go buy one? Absolutely. Would my background check come back great? Absolutely. I made the personal decision not to own one, but also I kind of want to outlive this administration and see what life's like afterwards. I want to see what the history books say. So I went and purchased one. So for you, you're gonna have to get outside your comfort zone. Might have to go get one if you can afford it. There's other things going on. Take care of yourselves, protect yourselves and your communities, but yeah, be comfortable with potentially having to get uncomfortable very soon
In order to ensure survival. Then,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the checks on the power normally are the other branches of government, and I feel like we're fully in a constitutional crisis, because the courts are supposed to be what is preventing this,
Mhm.
and they now have gotten to the point where the administration has defied court orders, which has made now the courts not come out and oppose it. And it really stems to the Supreme Court's lack of kind of getting out in front of the curve.
Well, they're bought and paid for, so
Right.
Some
at,
are,
at least
But now-
at least two are
Now
verified,
they
bought
have
and paid for.
completely given up power to
Yeah.
them. And same with the legislative. Like the legislative, essentially you can do like a War Power Act to kind of try to stop it. But with the most egregious things that have continued to occur within 2 years, not even 2 years of this administration, they essentially have given over power. So now if those branches of government don't have the ability to check this level of government, then the Constitution's gone. It's obsolete.
Yep.
I think they're okay being a figurehead and a branch of government in
Proxy.
they're props.
Yeah.
In fealty and in optics only.
Kangaroo court.
I really want to see, to my dismay, I really want to see the evidence that he has against over all of these politicians that are just constantly siding with him, knowing that they're voting the entire country to its doom. Because most of them are much, much smarter than than our
Mhm.
president. Most of them are.
Well, a lot of them, I think, are just as concerned about their next upcoming possibility of getting reelected. At least the ones that aren't like outright quitting.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's
But I
And
agree
those that
with you. I
have
wonder if there isn't.
But I
They don't
felt
have
that.
if bribery
those
happening.
that have
Yes.
Bribery
dissented
and
though
blackmail.
have been put up for primaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good point, that essentially there is fear of not being reelected
Mhm.
if you say something against them. But I will say, whenever it comes to a Supreme Court that has a lifetime basically guarantee of a job, to kind of capitulate to it,
Yeah.
also makes you wonder what in the hell is going on.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder how many of these politicians legitimately are concerned for their future reelectability, and how many of them are already writing off the fact that there's not going to be a reelection.
Yeah.
The entire system is shifting. And you look at the House voting today, saying that Affordable Care Act, they'd revive the enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies for 3 years.
Thank God.
I believe it was 17 Republicans voted to restore those benefits. As it turns out, and I'm still verifying all 17, they are not planning to run for reelection.
None of them.
none of
None
them.
of them. That they are,
Even Mitch McConnell started dissenting
they're
once it was clear that he's done
the right thing.
now.
Now, because there's
now because they're not running again.
Yeah.
They're stepping out. They know that what we're getting ready to walk into is very different world than what
If we can-
thought we had.
if we can make it, if we can somehow make it to the midterms and there's still midterms, that's when it's over for them. But we can't wait for that to
Well,
happen.
yeah,
I
and
know.
he said it out loud earlier this week, or
Yeah.
maybe it was last week. He said if there's a midterm election, if they
It's
win
over
the
for
House,
us. Yeah.
I'm getting
I'm getting
impeached.
impeached.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing he recognizes that, but that terrifies me because
He understands that.
one thing a cockroach will do is make sure that they have a place under the refrigerator when the time comes.
Yeah.
And if he knows that he's going to get impeached, he's going to do everything in his power to keep the House from being flipped
Yeah.
back blue. From the
Yeah,
Democrats'
I would say that there's so many of them that are just back to who's being blackmailed for what, and who's willing to say, or who's behind closed doors saying, if I go down, you're coming down with me,
Right.
right?
But there are many of them that are bought into this idea too.
Totally.
They want all this stuff.
But
Ray
like,
Scott,
they
absolutely.
believe they're
Yeah.
true believers.
but like you got Bannon, who's outright said it. You got Elon Musk, who's outright said it. I mean, they've even said, look, if Kamala Harris had won, we would have already been arrested.
Yes.
So they know that there is evidentiary claims to their unlawfulness
Yeah.
to hold them accountable if the right people were in power to enforce said oversight and accountability.
You wouldn't say that if there wasn't.
Exactly.
I'm not going to say, oh, I hope I'm probably going to get arrested today. I'm saying I might get arrested because push comes to shove, I will dissent against the U.S. government. If push comes to shove, I'm not doing anything that's immoral or going against the U.S. people.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So
They can end me.
but that's me saying I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
Not to say, because look, so there's a whole thing. But
There
yeah.
are so many avenues we could go down.
Oh, it's
Because
yeah.
it all of a sudden I just thought about Kelly.
Yeah, Mark Kelly.
Mark Kelly,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mark Kelly and them taking away his benefits or trying to.
demoting
I
him
don't know if that's
to-
happening
to
yet.
push for
but-
demotion.
Yeah, they're trying to censor him because they knew trying to court martial him that would fail miserably.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but again, it's all this explosion of things that
And I think that particular with Kelly, it
Flood
was
the zone.
less about shutting him up as it was about shutting me up. I draw a military pension, spent 20 years in the Air Force, and that's what they went after with Kelly.
Yeah.
This is your retirement money. And Kelly is in a position where he doesn't ever
He
have to
does,
worry about
Money
having money again. So cutting his retirement, really, from a practical standpoint, probably isn't going to have a tremendous impact on Mark Kelly's life.
Right.
However, it's all those other people that are A, in the military today, and B, who are drawing military pensions or VA benefits or Social Security, anything that's coming through the federal government, this is a means by which, and I think that Kelly recognized that, and he's making that case that,
Yeah.
look, this isn't about me.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, isn't he so humble? No, he sees the truth.
He's
The truth
telling
is
them,
this is
yes.
intended to shut me up, and not me personally, but
yeah,
people like me.
Yeah, because I draw VA benefits, right? So like
Right.
I could lose that too,
Yeah.
and that's my livelihood.
It's
That
the-
allows me to go to school, allows me to get an
Right.
education.
Precedents.
I'm running
always
for
the
office, and
precedents.
that literally is putting a target on my
yeah.
life for that.
Yeah.
No, but
So that's fun.
Yeah.
it's incredibly awful because the idea.
So-
Wait, what? Go ahead.
I just want to steer us back a little bit too to the whole ICE and
Just
JD Vance
FYI,
saying
we're at 120.
community.
Okay,
Oh,
probably
Yeah,
the episode,
dang.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Wow,
go
that
ahead.
happened fast. All right. But back to the whole like ICE having absolute immunity,
Go.
plenary
Plenary authority.
authority.
Cries,
I mean, essentially, that's exactly what it was like to live, I think, in Europe in the 1930s and 40s, when you couldn't do anything about, nobody was doing anything about the kidnappings by the Gestapo and the SS and so on.
And it
you
took someone from the outside to stop that.
It took
Like,
exactly. And
right.
who right now is anybody in position from the outside of the United States
Nope.
that could intervene and help us stop us?
Everybody's gonna be
Who can
busy.
save us from ourselves?
Yeah, and I would
MI6.
say this might be hopeful,
American citizens is the only answer I have.
but it's states and communities.
It's our
Like,
people. We the
from
people.
the
Well,
Yeah, no, from
and
the
it-
inside, yeah.
Right, and it's like it's the federal government going into these cities, but kind of like Tim Walsh said after the event that he's going to give out the National Guard, and that these people that are within the communities care about the communities and will protect the communities.
Mhm.
And I think that's as prevalent as anything. And as much as I like to put on a tinfoil hat too, the Gestapo and such were essentially stripping people out of their homes and essentially broadcasting the brutality. And we might be on the precipice of it, and it might be coming pretty quickly. But luckily, we're still not at midnight yet in that regard.
Yes.
We're
So
11:55.
yeah, it's coming quickly. But of course, there are massive demonstrations that are occurring. Even within that community, that this happened to that woman. But not all of them are being rounded up and being shipped out. And that's really what it was during that time.
Were there
in
demonstrations in Germany? I don't think.
I mean, to a certain degree.
At a point there were, but
Yeah.
then the brown shirts were like, yeah, we don't really like that anymore. So we're going to bust out your windows
Well-
and destroy your businesses, and then take you behind the back. And
Fun fact about Nazis.
fun fact about Nazis.
Knew we'd
is-
get there. I
is
knew it.
is the amount of regular citizens who then joined up and became part of they weren't Nazis. They weren't a part of the party, but the amount of them that joined and
That were that basically assisted them, but they
Assisted
didn't
them.
join the Nazi party.
Self-preservation.
Yeah.
self-preservation,
Thinking
exactly.
self-preservation.
And the
but,
same thing
yeah.
happened as they moved along from country to country. What is MAGA going to say if we dissolve borders? What borders are they going to yell about? What walls they're going to yell about? I mean, MAGA, have you even thought about that? I bet you haven't.
Well, because they only care about the borders in so much as how we perceive them, how they perceive them. Because if we expand the
about
borders, they'd be okay with that.
They don't care about borders. They care about brown.
Correct.
No, look, first of all,
That's
They just don't understand how the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. And that's
yes,
the problem.
we're gonna X that one out. We're gonna X that one out.
I'm going to go with it. Judges?
we don't
Yeah.
really
Oh.
know him that well.
Yeah, I'm gonna X that one for our adoring fans. So if you hear that and you are of the we'll say the paler variety, please
Yeah,
proceed accordingly.
we're not gonna call that one okay.
I'm gonna take him out
All
back
right.
actually.
All right. Fair enough.
But
I'll concede.
no, yeah, because the idea is like they only exist in their hatred. So once the idea of expansion happens, it's like, well, why? But they also don't really care about sending their sons and daughters off to die in wars. that don't benefit them at all.
Totally.
But
But I think that a large part of that base at some point will realize that they are going to be just as affected as everybody else. This isn't about owning the lives. It's their children are going to be owned and their grandchildren are going to be owned. They're going to be sitting there saying, oh, wait, what? I think, that's
It's already happening
What
to
are you
some
trying-
degree.
what-
Not so much here in
So-
The
Texas,
MAGA-based.
but it's happening.
so because there's two different types of MAGA, right? But MAGA base that are so entrenched that it does not care what he does to them, their family, they will always support him. Then there's the MAGA that are more motivated by just like their money and their social status.
Yeah.
So it's like they go along with the racism because like it gives them extra perks. The ones that are actually like endowed with money and
Talk
wealth.
about the true
generational.
believers versus.
So those are the ones that would be like, I really don't want to send my kids out to work because we saw that with Megyn Kelly. All of a sudden, her line was drawn at having her kids conscripted in a potential
Called
like,
out Fox
yeah.
News and everything.
So then she was like, yeah, I come here every day and it's all propaganda. We're all like his cheerleaders and I'm just tired of doing that because my children are at risk. But 2 months ago, her 14-year-old daughter was a year from being an adult. So only when it affected her son specifically did she care. Her daughter, not so much. But I would say those are the ones that actually would be like, this doesn't affect me, but they're not going to be the ones that are in the streets.
Right.
They're not going to be the ones that typically, there were a few ones that were a bit more wealthy that were at the Capitol storming, but for the most part, those weren't the ones that were there.
Yeah.
Those are all the ones that had nothing left to lose. So those were the ones that are now working for ICE. Those are the ones that have lost everything. Those are the ones that have gotten divorces because they've mortgaged their homes 2 and 3 times to help fund his campaign. Those are the ones that it does not matter.
Well, some of those people are actually running for office just east of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard.
And somebody's running unopposed in Florida that
Yeah.
got acquitted
Another-
for
another
January
guy.
6th.
Unopposed? That is wild.
And I
Florida,
think
y'all
a
are wild.
Republican unopposed. I don't know if there's a Democrat running against him,
Right,
but
yeah.
Yeah.
there's no he's going to win his primary.
Yeah.
So,
Florida, you are wild.
but it can't have it. Well, I mean, I'd
Hello,
Close.
Texas.
Yeah, hello. Texas says, hold my beer.
look at the same time.
Every
Yeah.
time.
Going back to it again, this is our first time having like no
Fun
unopposed
fact about
elections.
Florida.
Florida man is real.
Yeah.
No, it's
Tom Brady?
Florida man, Texas woman.
well, because here's the other thing too.
Go back, Google news reports, Texas woman. Texas woman, I would rank right up there with
Texas
Florida
woman
man.
is very close to Florida man for
Wait,
sure.
Texas woman.
Yeah.
Is that like,
Go read the
Go,
news.
just go.
Google Texas woman and news.
Pick a random, just pick a random day,
okay?
and then type in that date, and then Texas woman.
Okay. Okay. I feel
Not
like
all
that
Texas women,
not all-
just to be.
No,
just-
absolutely not.
but I feel like that Flower Mound Karen that went viral for yelling at that Uber driver
Yeah.
2 or 3 months ago.
I think I missed that one.
I'll send it to you. I still
Probably
have it.
showed up in the headline as Texas woman.
But okay. I
Yeah.
feel like that's
Just
who I'm
like
picturing.
Florida man, not
Yeah.
That's what I'm
not
picturing.
besmirching the good name of women in Texas.
For-
Talking specifically that the shortcut headline in Florida, Florida man, in
Yeah.
Texas.
All
An
right.
example would be,
Yeah, we've really
Yeah, we
got off
ran-
the
we
We
rails.
have. I
Texas-
think it's time
Texas
to.
woman puts hit out on cheerleader so her daughter can get on the cheerleading squad.
Yes.
No,
yes.
that actually happened for anybody listening. That actually happened, and I actually worked with her in Houston. Actually, yeah.
Did you really?
Oh,
Yeah, because my dad was like, "Hey, you know who that is? Like, that's the cheerleader mom." And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Oh my God.
But anyway, I think we're getting ready to close it down here because
I
we
think
kind of
we-
ran a little bit long. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, we get kind of hungry. It's been
I actually haven't eaten all day
Starving.
today. Actually, yeah.
Oh.
This has been a long one. We again did not get to talk a whole lot about Minneapolis. We touched on it a little bit, and I believe that Tim Walz, or the stories about Tim Walz calling out the National Guard to protect Minnesota citizens from federal ICE ICE agents, is really kind of what they probably meant by a well-regulated militia.
believe your eyes and ears, people. Like, don't let the government, Kristi Noem, and other people tell you what you saw or tell you what to believe.
In
Like,
HD
trust your eyes.
in multiple angles.
We're not living in 1984,
And
even if it feels like it.
my heart goes out to her family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, children, wife.
Uh,
Yeah,
Her motherhood. gracious things to say about her, and this is just it's sad. It's so sad.
If this doesn't get the attention of the American people sufficient to say, look, we've got to change what we're doing, even if you support what is being done, the how it's being done is absolutely, just beyond the pale.
This can be any one of us. This can literally be any one of us. Any one of us could have been her.
Except it doesn't snow in Texas.
Till it does.
Joe's upset about that.
Till it does. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. This is, I think
it does ice in Texas.
I think the,
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mm.
on that happy note, Joelle is going to be away for some time.
So I'll be gone for a few weeks. I'll be in Japan. So hopefully,
So what time do we have to get together to make this work?
I might not be here for all of that, actually, depending on my work schedule while I'm there.
We can't even pre-record you or anything?
They probably won't let him record a podcast in the skiff.
because they're going to make it so that we pretty much can't leave, I
Gotcha.
think.
Gotcha.
But if I have time, I may try and pop in.
Let us know. Keep us
Yep.
posted.
Yeah.
I'll be messaging you anyway.
Otherwise,
Yep.
we'll be back next week.
I'll be sending you tons of selfies.
Make sure you let your mom know if she needs anything to holler.
Absolutely.
You got people down there, but she got people up here too.
Appreciate that.
So yeah, bon voyage, safe travels.
Absolutely.
And,
We'll miss you.
And I'm going to miss y'all.
we'll see you when you get back.
We shall overcome, nerds.
Hopefully we are back on track. Hopefully we'll be back again next week. Assuming I can get this podcast home and produced and launched out, intermixed with all the other stuff going on. We'll be back next week and circle the wagons once more.
Yeah.
Don't forget, while you're traveling, Joelle, you're going to bump into some things that are uncomfortable and not what you have, not giving you a good day. Just remember, the answer will always be the same. Love.
Love.
Peace.
I think
Peace.
This is the Patchouli Podcast Network.